Hey everyone, I'm Vanessa, a sexologist and the founder of Muse, and today's masturbation tip is that your clitoral orgasm is awesome and worthy and good enough. I used to spend a lot of time in Neo-Tantric sexuality communities, and there'd be often this debate around whether the clitoris clitoral orgasms are revitalizing and energizing for a human being. I think sometimes this languaging is more separatist or isolating than it is inclusive. And for me, that's really important when we're talking about sex, that we start from a place of feeling like we're good enough and we want to improve. Our bodies, as they are good enough. I want to acknowledge that when I talk about the clitoris, I talk about all women who identify as women, but also people with pussies and with clitorises that don't identify as women. Essentially, what these tantric teachings are getting to, or these neo-tantric teachings are getting to sometimes, is that a clitoral orgasm may feel depleting of energy, and that an internal, a vaginal or a G-spot orgasm is revitalizing, and somehow in that way we can get caught up in thinking that it's better and more supreme. I want to take away the stigma associated with this one being better than this one. I think it's absolute bullshit, and I like to kind of classify orgasms as either energizing or relaxing. You know, the difference between an orgasm that makes you feel ready for bed, like blow and pass out, versus ones that really fill you with energy and allow you to kind of feel fully energized for the whole day. So this is where I like to talk about sexuality being a really vital life force, but there's nothing wrong with using an orgasm or your sexuality to pass the fuck out. So a technique I like to use when I'm wanting to feel energized versus perhaps using an orgasm to go to bed, and for the sake of, or the lack of another word, we'll use when the energy is releasing and therefore we can rest. So you might want to say it depletes the energy. We'll call it enhancing energy and then letting go. So if you want to have these full-bodied orgasmic experiences, your clitoris will always be involved. Essentially, it's an orgasmic network, an arousal network that contributes to feeling the orgasmic energy, and your clitoris is a huge part of that. I'll post some pictures of the clitoral anatomy on my Instagram, meamuse.pleasure, because we've got some beautiful drawings which show us the intricacies of the full anatomy of the clitoris, which actually was only discovered in 1998. So I talked to many people who are like, why didn't I know this earlier? And I'm like, well, science essentially for me only caught on when I was 17. And in 1998, I was like year 11. And so up until then, we didn't have this knowledge that the clitoris is actually like an iceberg, and that what we see visually in a vulva is just the tip of the clitoris, and then it extends inward, has two legs that essentially sit behind your labia, and these two vestibular bulbs which arouse. Right, so there's erectile tissue in your clitoris and in surrounding areas, and when we get aroused, this pumps blood and starts to generate orgasmic energy in the genitals. If we want to direct that energy through our body and through our chakra system, which is where it becomes tantric, we can do that by a simple pelvic floor technique, which I'll make a video of in the next few days. So pelvic floor breathing that allows the energy to rise, and otherwise we know what that pushing that energy out feels like as well. For me, that pushing out is often involved in female ejaculation or ejaculation of a pussy. And so that when I'm pushing out, that fluid or that liquid can come out as well. So there's that push out versus that pull in. This makes an orgasm either energizing or depleting in a way that's also really useful. So your clitoris is hugely valuable. If someone's told you that the clitoral orgasms are like bad or subpar, I think that's absolutely bullshit. I think you're either pushing the energy out or pulling it in. And this is a key teaching in how to become full body orgasmic versus just genitally focused. Your clitoris orgasms are valid. Your experience of orgasmic energy is valid. And it can be utilized and transmuted through the body for any sort of life exercise, or we can use sexual vitality essentially to energize us to get some work done. That's often what I use when I feel invigorated through client work. I am then invigorated to offer other things. And this is where creativity and sexuality align in Swadhisthana chakra, in the second chakra. That is also another conversation. But just so you know, clitoris orgasms rule. The clitoris is always involved in generating pleasure for women or people with pussies, and do not deny your beautiful clitoris.